Commander Jack Fletcher had never wanted to be a hero. Heroes, in his experience, tended to have spectacularly short life expectancies. But as he stared at the Valaxian warship hovering over Proxima Colony, he had a sinking feeling the universe had other plans. "They're hailing us again, sir," Lieutenant Patel reported, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Same message as before. Jack sighed. "Put it through. Let's hear what our new friends have to say." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the scaly, reptilian face of the Valaxian ambassador. 6 yellow eyes blinked asynchronously, and the lipless mouth stretched into what passed for a smile in their species. The effect was about as comforting as a shark's grin. "Greetings, Commander Fletcher. Have you considered our generous offer? Your colony belongs, to the Valaxian Imperium now. Surrender will mean mercy. Resistance." The ambassador paused for dramatic effect. "Well, resistance would be most unfortunate." Jack maintained his poker face, mentally thanking his ex-wife for those 3 terrible years of marriage that had perfected it. "Ambassador Zrek, we've been over this. Proxima B is a legally established Earth colony. We have no intention of surrendering to the Valaxian Imperium, generous offer or not." The ambassador's eye ridges furrowed. "Your species' stubbornness is legendary, Commander. But perhaps you misunderstand the situation." The camera panned out to reveal a massive containment chamber behind him. "These are our war beasts, specially bred for conquest. Their ancestors terrorized 100 worlds before yours was even a speck of cosmic dust." Inside the chamber loomed creatures straight out of humanity's nightmares, 12 feet tall, covered in armored plates and spikes, with jaws that could snap a human in half. They paced restlessly, occasionally smashing against the transparent walls of their prison. "Impressive pets," Jack said dryly. "Do they fetch?" The ambassador's nostrils flared. "Mock while you can, human. You have 6 Earth hours to surrender, or we unleash our war beasts upon your colony." The transmission cut out, and Jack's carefully maintained calm crumbled. "Well, shit." Colonel Rodriguez, head of colony security, voiced what everyone was thinking. "We can't fight those things, Commander. Our security force is armed for wildlife control, not whatever the hell those are." Jack ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "Get everyone into the emergency bunkers. And somebody find Dr. Winters. If those things are biological, maybe she can find a weakness." 3 hours later, the Valaxians made good on their threat. Dropships descended from the warship, releasing dozens of the monstrous creatures onto the colony's outskirts. The beasts moved with terrifying efficiency, tearing through the colony's perimeter defenses like they were made of tissue paper. Security cameras captured footage of colonists fleeing in terror as the creatures bounded after them, moving with a speed that belied their massive size. Jack watched from the command center, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the console. "Casualties?" 12 confirmed dead, sir," Rodriguez responded grimly. "Another 30 injured. We've managed to evacuate most civilians to the bunkers, but those things are getting closer to the central hub." Outside, the war beasts were systematically destroying everything in sight. Agricultural domes shattered, vehicles overturned, buildings reduced to rubble. One particularly massive specimen seemed to be directing the others, herding colonists like prey. "Sir," Patel's voice was strained. "Ambassador Zrek is hailing us again." "Put him through." The Valaxian's face appeared, smug satisfaction evident in every scale. "I trust you are reconsidering your position, Commander?" Jack's response was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Eleanor Winters, who burst into the command center clutching a tablet. Her lab coat was singed at the edges, and a smear of something that might have been blood, hopefully not hers, stained her sleeve. "Commander," she gasped, "I need to show you something. Right now." Jack held up a finger to the ambassador. "If you'll excuse me, I have some surrender terms to consider." He cut the transmission before the Valaxian could respond. Dr. Winters' gray eyes were wide with excitement rather than fear, which immediately got Jack's attention. Ellie Winters didn't do excitement unless it was for something either brilliantly insane or insanely brilliant. Tell me you found a weakness, Jack said. Better, she replied, sliding her tablet across the table. I found a solution. But you're going to think I've lost my mind. You've lost your mind, Jack stated flatly, staring at Dr. Winter's proposal. This isn't a solution. This is. Brilliant, Dr. Winters finished for him, her eyes gleaming with the particular madness reserved for scientists on the verge of a breakthrough, or a breakdown. The line was often blurry. The command center had been converted into an emergency war room. Holographic displays showed the positions of the Valaxian war beasts as they systematically demolished the colony's outer sectors. The creatures moved with military precision, far too organized for simple animals. Let me get this straight, Colonel Rodriguez said, pinching the bridge of his nose. You want to fight alien war beasts with pets? Earth pets? Dr. Winters' Ellie, to those who'd survived one of her breakthrough episodes, tapped her tablet enthusiastically. Not just any pets. I've analyzed the genetic structure of these war beasts from tissue samples we collected. They're remarkably similar to Earth's prehistoric apex predators, just evolved along a different path. She brought up a comparison chart showing the DNA sequences. Jack couldn't make heads or tails of the scientific jargon, but the similarities in the highlighted sections were clear even to him. Their neurological structure suggests they were originally pack animals, Ellie continued. The Valaxians have engineered them for aggression and obedience, but the baseline instincts remain. So what? Demanded Rodriguez. We throw dog treats at them and hope they sit. Jack had been unusually quiet, studying the footage of the war beasts. Something about their behavior seemed familiar. It reminded him of my grandfather's farm, he murmured. What was that, Commander? Ellie asked. Jack looked up. My grandfather raised livestock on Earth. Had a problem with coyotes until he got a Great Pyrenees. Biggest damn dog I've ever seen. Those coyotes never came back. A slow smile spread across Ellie's face. Exactly, Commander. Every predator has something it fears. These war beasts are engineered weapons, yes, but at their core, they're still animals. And Earth evolved some of the most effective predator control systems in the galaxy. Lieutenant Patel, who had been monitoring communications, turned from her station. Sir, you can't seriously be considering this? What's your alternative, Lieutenant? Jack asked. We can't evacuate in time. We can't fight them conventionally. And I'll be damned if I surrender this colony. He turned back to Ellie. How quickly can we get what we need from Earth? The supply ship Nova is docked at Mars Station. They could divert here in 3 days. Jack nodded decisively. Make the call. Tell them it's emergency priority. Authorization Fletcher Alpha 79. Rodriguez started to protest, but Jack cut him off. Colonel, I need you to hold the line for 3 days. Use whatever resources we have. Keep those things away from the central hub. And what do I tell the colonists? That help is coming in the form of what exactly? Jack's expression was dead serious despite the absurdity of the plan. Tell them Commander Fletcher has a secret weapon that will save their homes. After Rodriguez left, muttering about insane commanders and suicide missions, Jack turned back to Ellie. This had better work, Doctor. Otherwise, we'll have sacrificed a lot of good people for nothing. Ellie's confidence wavered for the first time. It's unorthodox, but the science is sound. These war beasts aren't invincible. They're just animals that have never encountered Earth's ecology. Jack remembered the vicious hunting dogs his grandfather had trained, the barn cats that kept rodents at bay with merciless efficiency, and the territorial behaviors of even the tamest farm animals when threatened. Then let's show these Valaxians what kind of beasts Earth has domesticated, he said grimly. Make the arrangements, Doctor, and pray your theory holds water. This has got to be the stupidest plan in the history of human colonization. Maxine Torres grumbled as she helped unload another crate from the Nova. The security chief's perpetual scowl had deepened to unprecedented levels over the past 72 hours. Beside her, tech specialist Ravi Kapoor carefully monitored the environmental controls on the shipping containers. Actually, I can think of at least 3 stupider plans from Earth's history. Remember the Great Emu War? The what now? Australia, 1932. They declared war on Emus. The Emus won. Torres rolled her eyes. That's not making me feel better about Operation Fetch, Ravi. 3 days of grueling defense had pushed the colony's resources to their limits. The central hub remained secure, but just barely. The Valaxian war beasts had established territories throughout the outer sectors, using the ruined buildings as dens. Casualties had mounted, though mercifully most were injuries rather than fatalities. Commander Fletcher supervised the unloading personally, directing the Nova's crew with the precision of someone who knew they were running out of time. Dr. Winters flitted between containers, checking vital signs and administering sedatives where needed. "Status report, Doctor," Jack called over. Ellie looked up from her tablet. "All specimens are healthy and acclimatizing well to Proxima's atmosphere. The artificial gravity during transit prevented any muscle atrophy." Jack nodded. "And they'll be combat ready when?" "Give them 4 hours to wake fully from sedation, another 2 to orient to their new environment." After that, she smiled tightly. "Well, let's just say the Valaxians are in for a surprise." Torres snorted. "If we live that long." The beasts have been probing the perimeter defenses more aggressively. They're learning our patterns. As if summoned by her words, an alarm blared. Rodriguez's voice came over the comms, breach in Sector 7. Multiple hostiles inbound. Jack cursed. "Torres, with me. Ravi helped the doc get our reinforcements to the agricultural dome. That's our fallback position." "On it, Commander," Ravi said, already moving to secure the nearest container. Jack and Torres sprinted toward Sector 7, where they found a scene of chaos. 3 war beasts had breached the makeshift barricade, massive claws tearing through the reinforced plasteel like it was paper. Colony security forces fired pulse rifles at the creatures, but the energy bolts seemed to merely annoy them. "Aim for the eyes," Jack shouted, raising his own weapon. "Rodriguez, fall back to position Delta." The security team executed a fighting retreat, drawing the war beasts away from the civilians. Jack and Torres provided covering fire, managing to temporarily blind one of the creatures when a well-placed shot caught it in the leftmost eye. It howled a sound so primordially terrifying that Jack felt his ancestral hindbrain screaming at him to run. Instead, he activated his comm. "Ellie, we need those reinforcements now." "How close are you?" 20 minutes, Commander," came the strained reply. "The sedatives are wearing off faster than expected. Some of them are already awake and enthusiastic." In the background, Jack could hear barking. Lots of barking. "Make it 10 minutes, he ordered. "Otherwise, there won't be anything left to reinforce." The fighting retreat continued, Jack and Torres systematically falling back through pre-planned defensive positions. The war beasts pursued relentlessly, their tactical intelligence evident in how they flanked and coordinated. Finally, they reached the agricultural dome, a vast structure originally designed to grow crops but hastily converted into what Ellie had termed the kennels. The security team sealed the massive doors behind them, knowing they wouldn't hold for long. Inside, Ravi and Ellie had been busy. The dome's interior had been divided into sections, each housing different reinforcements from Earth. Some were still in transport containers, while others were already exploring their new surroundings. "Please tell me they're ready," Jack panted, wiping blood his own, unfortunately from a cut above his eyebrow. Ellie looked nervous but determined. "As ready as they'll ever be. Remember, Commander, this isn't just about physical confrontation. It's about psychological impact." A thunderous boom shook the dome as something massive slammed into the doors. "Psychological impact won't mean much if those doors give way before we're set up," Torres pointed out dryly. "Then let's speed things up," Jack decided. He strode toward the largest container and examined the control panel. "This one first." Ellie started to protest we should begin with the smaller, but Jack had already hit the release mechanism. The container's front panel descended slowly, forming a ramp. From the shadowy interior came a low, rumbling growl that made even Torres take an involuntary step back. "Commander," Ravi whispered, "meet Caesar." 180 pounds of purebred Caucasian shepherd. The dog that emerged was nothing short of magnificent and terrifying. Thick white-gray fur covered a muscular body the size of a small bear. Intelligent eyes surveyed the dome, and when they landed on the trembling doors, the dog's massive head lowered, hackles rising. Another boom, and the doors began to buckle. "Ellie," Jack said quietly, "release the others. Now." As the scientists scrambled to comply, Jack knelt beside the enormous dog. "Hey there, big guy. Ready to earn your kibble?" Caesar's only response was a low growl that seemed to resonate in Jack's very bones. The doors finally gave way with a screech of tortured metal. 3 war beasts burst through, alien saliva dripping from their fangs, claws extended for the kill. They froze at the sight before them. Caesar was no longer alone. Flanking him were 2 more massive dogs, a Tibetan Mastiff with a lion-like mane and a sleek Kengal whose deceptively slim build hid muscles that could crush bone. Behind them, a dozen more dogs of various breeds formed a second line, all bred over thousands of years to protect humans and their livestock from predators. And in the back, held in check by Ravi and Ellie, were the wild cards of their plan, creatures that even hardened Earth military personnel treated with respectful caution. For a moment, there was absolute stillness as ancient instincts warred with engineered aggression. Then Caesar barked a sound like thunder and lunged forward. The battle for Proxima Colony had entered a new phase. Commander Grek of the Valaxian Imperium was not having a good day. What should have been a routine conquest, subjugate the human colony, add another world to the Imperium, that received commendation from the Emperor, had turned into a logistical nightmare. "What do you mean the war beasts are retreating?" he snarled at his subordinate. "They don't retreat. They can't retreat. It's literally engineered out of them." The junior officer's scales paled to a sickly yellow. "Respectfully, Commander, the footage speaks for itself." On the command screen, Grek watched with mounting horror as his supposedly unstoppable war beasts fled from, was that a furry earth creature barely a quarter their size? The beast in question, some kind of quadruped with pointed ears and a bushy tail, was actually chasing one of his elite alpha specimens. "This is impossible," Grek muttered. "Our war beasts have conquered 17 systems. They fear nothing." "Apparently they fear that," the officer replied, pointing to a new creature entering the frame. This one was larger, with a thick mane and an air of lethal confidence as it stalked through the ruins of the colony's outer buildings. In the observation shuttle hovering above the colony, Jack watched with undisguised satisfaction as the first phase of their plan unfolded. Beside him, Ellie was practically bouncing with scientific excitement. "It's working exactly as I hypothesized," she said, pointing to the tablet displaying multiple camera feeds. "Look at the body language of the war beasts' classic submission and avoidance behaviors." On one screen, a pack of border collies was actually herding a confused war beast away from a residential sector. On another, a massive Valaxian alpha that had terrorized the colony for days was backing away from a pair of German shepherds, their disciplined approach leaving the alien predator no opening to attack. "I still don't understand why they're responding this way," Torres admitted, watching a war beast flee from a particularly determined Jack Russell Terrier. "Those dogs are tiny compared to them." Ravi chimed in, monitoring vital signs of their troops remotely. "It's not just about size. Earth evolved some seriously specialized predators and guard animals. Dogs have co-evolved with humans for at least 30,000 years. They're literally designed to read our intentions and protect us." Jack nodded. "And they've been bred to stand their ground against wolves, bears, and lions, all of which share genetic markers with these war beasts, according to the doc. The Valaxians made their creatures bigger and stronger, but they couldn't engineer out those deep instinctual responses." Plus, Ellie added with a gleeful grin, "The war beasts have never encountered anything like Earth canines before. The psychological impact of facing an unknown threat that shows no fear, it's throwing their programming into chaos." In the most dramatic confrontation, Caesar and his pack had cornered 3 war beasts against the ruins of a storage facility. The alien creatures, each weighing over a ton and armed with claws that could shred metal, were cowering before the Earth dogs. Torres whispered in awe, "I'll be damned." But the real shock came from what they dubbed Phase 2. In the agricultural sector, Ravi had released their special reserves, the creatures that even hardened Earth military handlers approached with caution. The largest war beast, Alpha, identifiable by its scarred carapace and distinctive eye ridge, it had been systematically destroying the colony's power generators when it encountered something unexpected, a stocky, waddling creature barely reaching its knee. "Is that?" Torres began. "Honey badger," Jack confirmed. "Specifically a genetically unmodified specimen from Earth's most aggressive lineage." What followed defied all logical predictions. The tiny creature, showing not the slightest concern about the size disparity, launched itself directly at the war beast's face. The ensuing battle was brief, vicious, and ended with the mighty alien predator in full retreat, bleeding from multiple wounds as the honey badger pursued it with single-minded determination. Similar scenes played out across the colony. A pair of wolverines had claimed an entire sector, driving out all war beasts through sheer aggression. The squad of mongooses' fleet, fearless and evolved to kill serpents, harassed the reptilian aspects of the war beasts with surgical precision. And in perhaps the most absurd yet effective deployment, a team of domesticated foxes led by a particularly crafty specimen Ellie had named Houdini had somehow managed to infiltrate the war beasts' main den and steal their food supplies, causing chaos and infighting among the alien creatures. In the Valaxian command ship, Grek was apoplectic. "They're using animals," he roared. "Simple, primitive Earth animals. This cannot be happening." His science officer, braver than most, ventured, "Commander, perhaps we underestimated Earth's evolutionary history. Our records indicate their planet had unusually high predator diversity and competitive pressure. These creatures they're deploying, they're not genetically engineered like our war beasts." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Earth naturally produced these organisms. They evolved these traits. And the humans have been selectively breeding the most effective ones for thousands of years." Grek stared at the footage of a particularly massive war beast fleeing from something small, striped, and emitting a noxious spray. "How is this possible?" On the ground, Jack was coordinating their next move. "It's time for the final phase. Ravi, are our special units in position?" "Ready and extremely willing, Commander," Ravi confirmed, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "Though I still think this part of the plan is certifiably insane." Jack grinned. "That's what makes it perfect. The Valaxians would never expect it." "Neither would any rational human," Torres muttered, but she was smiling too. Against all odds, they were winning. Commander Grek had reached the end of his considerable patience. The war beasts, the pride of the Valaxian military, engineered through generations of selective breeding and genetic manipulation, were being systematically driven back by Earth fauna. It was beyond humiliating. It threatened the very foundations of Valaxian military doctrine. "Prepare for ground assault," he ordered, strapping on his ceremonial armor. "I will lead the final wave personally." His officers exchanged alarmed glances. "Commander, perhaps a strategic withdrawal would be." Silence. Grek roared, "No human colony defies the Imperium. Release all remaining war beasts simultaneously. We will overwhelm them with numbers." In the colony's makeshift command center, Jack watched the Valaxian dropships descend. "They're going all in," Torres observed, checking her weapon. "Deploying everything they've got left." Ellie studied the tactical display. "Our teams are spread thin. We've lost contact with the Border Collie unit in Sector 4, and 3 of the Shepherd dogs are injured." Jack's expression was grim but determined. "Then it's time for our secret weapon. Ravi, status on Operation Fluffy?" The tech specialist suppressed a smile despite the tension. "Ready to deploy on your command, sir. Though I still can't believe we're betting the colony on, well, them." Sometimes the most effective weapon is the one no one sees coming, Jack replied. Ellie, are you sure about the psychological impact? The xenobiologist nodded confidently. The Valaxians evolved from pack-hunting reptilians. Their entire society is structured around dominance hierarchies and predictable threat responses. What we're about to deploy represents a complete evolutionary contradiction to their understanding of predator-prey dynamics. In English, Doc? It'll blow their scaly minds, she translated with a grin. Outside, the final Valaxian assault had begun. 4 beasts poured from dropships, more than they'd released in the previous attacks combined. Commander Grek himself led a contingent of Valaxian warriors, their biomechanical armor gleaming under Proxima's reddish sun. The Earth animals fought valiantly. Caesar and his canine squad held the perimeter of the central hub with fierce determination. The Wolverines conducted guerrilla strikes from the ruins, but while the honey badgers, now regarded with superstitious fear by the war beasts, continued their improbable reign of terror. But the sheer numbers of the Valaxian forces began to tell. Slowly, the defensive line contracted toward the colony center. Jack activated his comm. All units fall back to the central plaza. Ravi, it's time. Release the final wave. May God have mercy on their reptilian souls, Ravi muttered as he entered the activation sequence. In the central plaza, the human defenders and their Earth allies formed a last defensive ring. The war beasts advanced cautiously, having learned respect for the smaller but ferociously effective Earth predators. Commander Grek strode forward, his ceremonial staff pounding the ground with each step. Commander Fletcher, he called out, your resistance has been impressive but futile. Surrender now, and I may yet show mercy to your colonists. Jack stepped forward to meet him, seemingly unarmed. Funny, I was about to offer you the same deal. Grek's multifaceted eyes narrowed. You are beaten. Your animals, while surprisingly effective, are outnumbered and exhausted. Who said anything about being beaten? Jack replied calmly. He raised a hand and made a simple gesture. For a moment, nothing happened. Grek was about to speak again when a strange sound echoed across the plaza, a soft, rhythmic thumping. From behind the human lines emerged the most improbable army the galaxy had ever witnessed. Rabbits, hundreds of them, domestic rabbits in all sizes and colors, hopping forward in perfect unison. Behind them came guinea pigs, hamsters, and gerbils moving with inexplicable coordination. The Valaxians stared in confusion. The war beasts sniffed the air, their enhanced senses trying to categorize this new threat. What trickery is this? Grek demanded. You send prey animals against us? Jack simply smiled. Who said they were prey? As if on cue, the rabbits began to thump their hind legs in synchronization, a sound like distant artillery. The smaller rodents fanned out in formation patterns that seemed eerily militaristic for such tiny creatures. And then, riding on the back of the largest rabbit, a Flemish giant the size of a small dog, came the mastermind of Operation Fluffy, a domestic house cat. Its orange tabby coat gleaming in the sunlight, green eyes surveying the battlefield with imperious disdain. The cat, which Ellie had simply named General Whiskers, despite Jack's objections, yawned deliberately, showing needle-sharp teeth, then made a single commanding meow. The rabbits charged. What followed defied explanation. The war beasts, confronted with small furry creatures that by all evolutionary logic should have triggered their predatory instincts, instead backed away in clear confusion and what could only be described as growing alarm. The rabbits moved with swarm-like coordination, surrounding individual war beasts and grooming them. The larger predators froze, completely discombobulated by behavior that contradicted every hunting pattern they were programmed to expect. Meanwhile, General Whiskers directed the rodent forces with occasional tail flicks and soft vocalizations. Hamsters climbed the legs of war beasts with surprising agility, while guinea pigs formed living barricades that somehow the massive predators refused to cross. This is impossible, Grek shouted, his composure finally breaking. War beasts. Attack. They are simply prey. But the war beasts weren't listening. Something fundamental in their programming had short-circuited when confronted with prey animals that acted like predators, small creatures that showed no fear, and a strategic coordination that defied natural order. A particularly brave Valaxian warrior charged forward, only to find his path blocked by a formation of precisely arranged gerbils. He stopped, inexplicably unable to simply step over them. Commander Grek himself found General Whiskers sitting directly in his path, calmly washing one paw. The Valaxian raised his staff, prepared to smash the insignificant creature. The cat looked up, made direct eye contact, and hissed. Grek froze. Something ancient and inexplicable in his reptilian hindbrain triggered a warning response so profound that his arms refused to complete the attack motion. Jack stepped forward. "I believe this would be an excellent time to discuss surrender terms, Commander. Unless you'd prefer to see what our chinchillas can do?" 3 weeks after what colonial historians would eventually call the Battle of Fluffy Retribution, the Proxima B colony had begun to rebuild. Construction drones worked alongside human crews to repair the damage from the Valaxian attack, while in the central administrative building, the Commander Jack Fletcher was dealing with a different kind of reconstruction, diplomatic relations. "Let me see if I understand correctly," Grek said, his scales shifting to a thoughtful blue-green hue. The Valaxian commander had traded his battle armor for diplomatic robes, though he still eyed General Whiskers with thinly veiled apprehension. The cat, for its part, had claimed the most comfortable chair in Jack's office and was methodically ignoring everyone. "Your species deliberately took apex predators and turned them into companions?" Jack nodded, sliding a data tablet across the table. "Dogs were originally wolves. We've been selectively breeding them for at least 30,000 years. Cats domesticated themselves about 10,000 years ago, but we helped refine the process." Grek's eyes blinked in their unsynchronized pattern that Jack had learned indicated deep confusion. "But why would you do this? Why not simply eradicate dangerous predators?" Dr. Winters, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the meeting, finally spoke up. "Because we recognize something valuable in them: intelligence, loyalty, adaptability. We didn't just want to survive alongside these creatures, we wanted to form bonds with them." Outside the window, evidence of those bonds was everywhere. Caesar and his canine squad had appointed themselves unofficial security for the reconstruction efforts, patrolling the perimeter with professional dedication. The rabbits had established a colony in what used to be an ornamental garden, their presence somehow deterring any remaining war beasts from approaching. Most surprisingly, several of the less aggressive war beasts had remained behind when the Valaxian fleet departed. They now followed Ravi around like oversized, armored puppies as he worked on repairing the colony's communication array. "Your species is deeply puzzling," Grek admitted. "Our evolutionary path was straightforward: dominate or be dominated, eat or be eaten. Yet humans—" He gestured toward a window, where a young colonist girl was reading a book while a formerly ferocious war beast lay curled protectively around her. "You turn enemies into allies, predators into guardians." Jack smiled. "That's kind of our thing. We've been doing it since some brave human ancestor looked at a wolf and thought, 'I bet that killing machine would be great at snuggling.'" Torres, who had been supervising security for the diplomatic meeting, snorted. "To be fair, Commander, we also have a knack for turning harmless things into weapons. Have you told him about what we did with bread mold yet?" "One revelation at a time, Max," Jack cautioned with a smile. "We don't want to scare our new friends away." Grek's head tilted curiously. "Friends? After we attempted to conquer your colony?" "Let's call it a cultural misunderstanding," Jack suggested diplomatically. "You thought we were easy prey because we didn't have obvious weapons. We thought you might be reasonable once you understood what you were dealing with." "And what exactly are we dealing with?" Grek asked, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Ellie leaned forward, her eyes bright with academic enthusiasm. "A species that evolved on a death world, Commander Grek. Earth's evolutionary pressures were so intense that only the most adaptable survived. We didn't just fight predators, we tamed them, befriended them, improved them through selective breeding. And the small furry creatures that defeated our final assault. The rabbits and rodents? Ah, Jack grinned. That was Ellie's masterstroke. See, the war beasts were programmed to understand predator-prey relationships in a certain way. Prey runs. Prey shows fear. Prey behaves predictably. But Earth prey animals, especially domesticated ones, don't always follow those rules, Ellie continued. We created an evolutionary contradiction: prey animals that act like they're apex predators because they've lived alongside humans for so long they've lost their fear response. Plus, Torres added with a smirk, have you ever seen what a determined rabbit can do to a garden? Ruthless little demolition machines. Grek absorbed this information with visible difficulty. The Valaxian Imperium has conquered 17 star systems. Our war beasts are feared throughout 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. And we were defeated by pets. If it makes you feel any better, Jack offered, they're really good pets. The diplomatic discussions continued into the evening, covering everything from reparations for the colony to a possible alliance between Earth and the Valaxian Imperium. The most contentious point, surprisingly, was the fate of the war beasts that had remained behind. They are Imperial military property, Grek insisted, though without much conviction. Engineered for conquest at great expense. As twilight fell over the colony, Jack and Ellie remained on the observation deck long after the Valaxian shuttle had disappeared into the atmosphere. The colony's lights winked on one by one below them, creating a constellation of human persistence. You know, Jack said, breaking the comfortable silence, when we left Earth, I never imagined our first contact scenario would involve explaining why humans keep predators as pets. Ellie laughed softly. The look on Grek's face when General Whiskers jumped into your lap during negotiations was priceless. I think that's when he truly understood he'd miscalculated. Speaking of our feline hero, Jack glanced around. Where is he? As if summoned by the mention, General Whiskers appeared from behind a console, stretching luxuriously before padding over to twine between their legs. I've been analyzing the Valaxian biotech, Ellie said, her scientific curiosity clearly piqued. Their war beasts are remarkable, genetically engineered for specific battle conditions, but with a fundamental flaw. They never accounted for Earth's evolutionary chaos theory. Jack finished her thought. Our animals don't follow the rules because Earth itself never did. Below them, the colony hummed with evening activity. A small group of children were leading one of the former war beasts through an improvised obstacle course, the creature's armored plates gleaming in the twilight as it delicately navigated the challenges. Torres wants to establish a K9 unit with some of them, Jack mentioned. Says they have the right temperament once they bond with a human handler. Ellie nodded thoughtfully. It makes sense. The Valaxians engineered them for loyalty and intelligence. They just directed those traits toward conquest rather than companionship. But General Whiskers chose that moment to jump onto the railing, surveying his domain with imperious satisfaction. The cat's tail twitched as he watched the proceedings below with the casual interest of a monarch observing his subjects. You know, the Valaxians have already requested breeding pairs of cats and dogs to study? Jack said with a smile. Apparently Grek has personally requested a kitten. God help the Imperium, Ellie laughed. Imagine what they'll think when they discover cats knock things off shelves across 17 star systems. The first stars were appearing overhead, and among them, the lights of the remaining Valaxian fleet no longer threatening, but waiting to escort their diplomatic delegation home with news of these strange humans and their even stranger companions. This changes everything, Jack said quietly. Not just for us, but for them too. Grek told me their entire society is built around domination hierarchies. The concept of mutual cooperation between species is revolutionary to them. Ellie rested her elbows on the railing. Earth's greatest evolutionary advantage has always been adaptability. Now we're teaching the stars the same lesson. General Whiskers yawned widely, displaying impressive fangs that had struck terror into alien hearts, then settled into a comfortable loaf position on the railing, seemingly content with his new role as interstellar diplomat. I've sent a full report to Earth Command, Jack said, along with my recommendation that General Whiskers receive the Colonial Medal of Honor. And what about the others? Caesar and his pack? The rabbits? Jack's expression turned serious. I've recommended commendations for all of them. But more importantly, I've requested that our next colonial shipments include more Earth species. Not as weapons, but as ambassadors. As night fully claimed the sky, the colony below had never looked more like home. Humans and animals moving in their ancient dance of coexistence, now joined by alien creatures learning new ways to be. General Whiskers stood suddenly, ears perked toward the stars. Jack followed the cat's gaze just in time to see a streak of light, another ship entering orbit. That's not Valaxian, Ellie said, checking her datapad. New signal, it's the Centauri Alliance. Jack smiled, scratching General Whiskers behind the ears. What do you say, General? Ready to show another alien species what Earth's diplomatic quirks can do? The cat purred loudly, the sound carrying across the observation deck like a promise, or perhaps a warning to all who might encounter Earth's most successful evolutionary experiment. Not its people, but the bridge they had built between species.